tensions in the Middle East have reached a new level and may be entering an even more dangerous phase. In just a few hours, airstrikes, intercepted missiles, and strategic threats involving one of the world's most important oil routes have put the world on alert. The indirect confrontation between Israel and Iran, with the involvement of the United States, is rapidly escalating. While military and political leaders analyze what the next moves will be that could redefine the entire balance of power in the Middle East, the situation intensified after new military operations carried out overnight, when Israeli and American forces intensified actions against positions associated with Iran. Numerous projectiles and missiles were detected in the skies over the region, some intercepted by defense systems, while others managed to hit their targets. The scenario described by reporters on the ground is one of great tension, with sirens, anti-missile systems constantly operating, and the population following each new update with concern. According to information released by Israeli authorities, fighter jets carried out airstrikes against targets located within Iranian territory. These operations reportedly aimed to target structures linked to missile development and storage. Military analysts point out that these actions are part of a broader strategy to limit Iran's offensive capabilities, especially at a time when the country continues to be accused of expanding its arsenal of strategic weapons. During interviews with the international press, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that recent events demonstrate the reach and risk posed by the Iranian military program. According to him, the launches carried out in recent hours show that Iran has the capacity to reach targets far beyond its immediate region. Netanyahu even stated that some of the systems used by the Iranians could reach areas of Europe, citing the island nation of Cyprus as an example of the potential extent of these threats. Meanwhile, the Israeli government is also focusing its attention on another front that could further expand the conflict. The Hezbollah group, an armed organization based in Lebanon and considered one of Iran's main regional allies. In recent hours, Israeli authorities reported incidents and attacks near the northern border, increasing fears that Hezbollah could open a new front in the conflict. This scenario worries military strategists, as it could transform a dispute between countries into a much broader regional confrontation. Israeli authorities state that they are already preparing for a prolonged period of hostilities. Government spokespeople indicated that the population should prepare for additional weeks of tension and possible ongoing military operations. According to these representatives, the stated objective is to prevent forces considered hostile or groups allied to Iran from threatening the security and existence of the State of Israel. In parallel with these events, an important statement came from the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who set a deadline for Iran to allow free movement in the Strait of Hormuz. This strait is considered one of the most important strategic routes for global oil trade, as a significant portion of world production passes through this narrow maritime corridor located between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. The deadline set by the United States is passed, and the big question among military analysts and diplomats is whether Iran will back down or if new military actions may occur. If navigation is threatened or blocked, the impact would not only be regional but global, affecting energy markets, maritime transport, and economies on several continents. Among the scenarios discussed by experts is the possibility of attacks against Iranian electrical infrastructure. Some strategists suggest that the destruction or disruption of the energy system could limit the country's military and logistical capacity. However, this strategy also raises humanitarian and political concerns, as it would directly affect the civilian population. Without electricity, large urban areas could face severe difficulties, including disruptions to essential services, hospitals, and communication systems. Furthermore, experts highlight that such an attack could influence the behavior of the Iranian population. Some analysts believe that an internal crisis could lead part of society to question the government's decisions. Others, however, warn that attacks against civilian infrastructure could have the opposite effect, increasing nationalist sentiment and strengthening internal support for the regime. Another point discussed is who is really driving strategic decisions within Iran at this moment. There are indications that the influence of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has been decisive. This military organization holds great power within the country and plays a central role in military operations, regional strategies, and in supporting allied groups in different parts of the Middle East. Analysts state that some operational decisions may be being made by local commanders of the Revolutionary Guard. This could explain some military responses considered disorganized or improvised in the first hours after recent attacks. At the same time, this decentralization can also make the conflict more unpredictable, since different commanders can act with greater autonomy. Meanwhile, the international scene is beginning to react. NATO leaders have indicated a willingness to collaborate with the United States on issues related to maritime security and regional stability. However, it is still unclear what level of direct involvement the military alliance will have in the conflict or in operations to protect trade routes. There are reports that naval forces from European countries are moving to strategic areas near the Persian Gulf. A French naval group is already en route to the region, although French authorities have indicated that they will not necessarily participate in joint military operations. Even so, the mere presence of these vessels could represent an element of logistical support or deterrence. There is also the possibility that Asian allies of the United States, such as Japan and South Korea, will send vessels or reinforcements to help protect maritime routes and ensure the stability of international trade. However, military deployments of this type take time, and it can take weeks for additional forces to be fully positioned in the region. Among geopolitical analysts, another theory has been circulating frequently: the possibility that the United States might decide to temporarily close the strait to certain vessels or impose strict military control in the region. This hypothesis arises mainly from fears that sea mines, explosive drones, or small armed vessels could be used to disrupt the flow of commercial ships. These concerns are not unfounded. Throughout previous conflicts in the region, smaller vessels and improvised systems have been used to threaten oil tankers and cargo ships. Should something similar happen again, the impact on oil prices and global financial markets could be immediate. Amidst all these possibilities, what we observe is an extremely volatile scenario. Each new military or political decision can rapidly alter the course of the crisis. An additional attack, a miscalculation, or an unexpected escalation could transform regional tensions into a much larger conflict. For now, authorities and analysts continue to closely monitor every movement in the Middle East. The world is watching closely, knowing that the decisions made in the coming hours or days could define not only the future of the region, but also global stability. While military leaders assess their options and governments discuss strategies, the question that remains is simple and at the same time unsettling: how far could this crisis go?